I see a few people still across the hallway. All right, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening. All right, come on, y'all. Y'all got some good food. Good evening. All right, and thank you for being here tonight. I am Marjorie Molina, and I am proud to represent the East Side District 5. Just for a little context, first of all, I want to, whether you're a resident of District 5, a partner, a leader, or someone simply trying to understand the path forward, I appreciate you being here with us tonight. I want to begin by sharing just a little context. I was elected in 2022, and as someone who's lived in District 5 since 2010 and in Charlotte since 2004, I already knew our community very well before I was elected. I've raised my children on the East Side. I've seen our growth, and I've felt our challenges personally and professionally. But when I stepped into this role, I knew it was important to go deeper. So in 2023, my first full year in office, I got to work. I pulled data, I met with staff, I hosted town halls, about 5 or 6 to date, each with different focuses. One of those was specifically on economic development. We used it as a moment to pause and to study where we were, what we were working on, and what was possible. This town hall came about because a question from the community kept coming up. Why aren't there any jobs in East Charlotte? And that's a valid question. It reflects the feelings of many people, obviously, but it's also a layered question. Jobs don't exist in isolation. They depend on access, on housing, on infrastructure, and they grow when the right conditions are in place. So I didn't want to answer that question just casually. I wanted to answer it with facts, with transparency, and with a plan, and that's what tonight is for. In 2023, I looked at the quality of life data for District 5, and here's what stood out. Only 0.5% of our streets had sidewalks. That was from an access and safety perspective. The median household income for our district was under $56,000 compared to the citywide amount of $73,000. Only 31% of the adults held a bachelor's degree, and 29.5% of homes had a grocery store. So only 29% of homes had a grocery store nearby. And those numbers matter, not just because they describe the past, but because they shape the way we move forward. They tell us what we need to build before we can attract and sustain jobs. As the District 5 representative, I'm laser focused on our community, but I also serve citywide. And as a member of the Jobs and Economic Development Committee and as the Vice Chair of Transportation, Planning and Development, these are roles where I have the opportunity to not just focus on our district, which is District 5 in East Charlotte, but I also get to shape policies that impact the entire city and impact all of us in this room. I bring that lens to work in everything that I do. Progress may not always be quick, but we are seeing some real wins. So let me walk you through some of those wins. With Eastland Yards, we committed over $40 million, and it's not a rendering, it's under construction. Evoke Living, it's already open, and there are human beings living there right now. Spark Centro is funded, and it's moving forward. It's a new anchor for business and community on the Albemarle Road and Central Avenue corridor. The Katie Blessing Center, it was built and named after a public servant in our area. And East Lane Drive, thanks to the land donation of the Brooks family and city investment, new homes are rising with families to build stability. And of course, I can't go without mentioning the actual corridor of opportunity, the Central Avenue and Albemarle Road corridor of opportunity, which is now one of the priority zones for growth, small business, and connectivity. The Harrisburg Road, I could go on and on. We're making progress. And so with that in mind, we've come to answer some questions around this. And so I brought with me experts who can help me with those questions, because again, it can't be answered in isolation. And so what I'm going to do is bring one of those experts up to just lay the groundwork. Again, this will be a question and answer session at the end. I do welcome your feedback, but I've brought people here to show you what we've done, to take a snapshot of where we are, and with your input, we can move forward together and work towards where we need to be in East Charlotte and overall in the city of Charlotte. So with that, I'm going to introduce you to Ed McKinney. He's a special assistant to the city manager for strategic mobility for our city.
Give me 1 second. Let me pull up a couple slides. So yeah, again, thank you. I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm again Ed McKinney. I'm in the city manager's office, sort of helping lead and coordinate a lot of our mobility efforts here in the city and really across the county as we've been looking at how we invest and fund transportation and infrastructure over the next 20, 30 years. So a lot of interesting things happening. There's lots of great news to share about projects that are happening on the east side. And so this is a great opportunity to give you the big picture of what we're trying to do and then give you some real specific examples of what this strategy and how we invest in mobility means in neighborhoods, on corridors, in all the different places that are in Charlotte. So it was teed up very well, right? This topic of mobility is not in isolation. The council's priorities around our investment need to support the big vision of our city, which is around giving ourselves an affordable place to live, a good paying job, and ultimately a way to get between those two things. And so there's a whole set of investment we do around the city. We're going to talk a lot about our economic development, our affordable housing, our workforce development initiatives tonight. But what I want to do is sort of talk about how that fits within the context of investing in mobility. And again, it's an important part of really a holistic way in how we think about the quality of life, the growth of our residents in the city of Charlotte. We've been spending over the last 2-3 years with council thinking about what our big vision around mobility investment should look like. It's a big effort. So as you all know, there's lots of growth happening in Charlotte. There's lots of infrastructure needs in Charlotte. Again, the District 5 and the East Side is a good example of that. We started really with that premise. Let's look at what are all of our needs? What are the infrastructure deficiencies we have? Where's congestion? Where are there lack of sidewalks? Where are there safety issues? We did a catalog, so that was volume 1 of our effort, sort of documenting all of our needs. Then we said, with this huge set of needs and sort of a geography across the city that was really expansive in terms of how we might think about prioritizing investment, we knew we had to have an approach. And so I'll talk a little bit about how we focused where we should go, what our priorities around investment should be, and that really tied ourselves to a strategy about how we would invest and where we would go. And again, tonight I'll share you some great examples of what that means on the Harrisburg Road corridor. And then just in the last couple of months, this last volume was really our plan. We shared that with council at the retreat this past January, which is sort of the compilation of all this work. And so we now have a plan, a sort of a full catalog of all the strategy investment we would do across the city, looking at mobility from a holistic standpoint, giving ourselves really a game plan for the projects and the actions that we would take. Funding is really the issue around that. I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm sure many of you are aware of some of the conversations that are happening at the county level about how to fund it. But this plan gives us that roadmap, but it does require additional funding for us to actually implement and execute. Talk a little bit about that strategy. So how would we, what would we do to sort of to hone in on all of these opportunities and needs and get to some specific strategies and priorities around the city? What we did is came up with this idea of strategic investment areas. And if you were here earlier, you certainly can do this afterwards. We have a team. Our strategic investment team is behind us in the room behind us with all sorts of information, so you can talk through that in a little bit more detail. What that was sort of an exercise where we looked at identifying the concentrations of places that had need, right? So we looked at where were you having congestion issues combined with safety issues, combined with lack of sidewalk, combined with other infrastructure deficiencies. It gave us sort of a heat map, and that heat map is sort of represented here on this map with a set of specific areas. So it took us to specific locations, and the idea then was with those targeted locations and with the list of needs and opportunities, we could actually develop a game plan for how to invest. And that way of investing was targeted, focused. It wanted to be actionable, small and short-term things with a way that we can invest in things today and with funding larger things over time. So it was, again, a way to take a large set of needs and hone in on specific areas that we could actually begin to move the needle on. For District 5, there are several of those strategic investment areas. Again, lots of detail our team can share. There's a QR code that I'll share at the end that you can go to a website that has all the project details. But I'll just sort of hone in on the idea that in different parts of the city, we have then specific areas. So this is a map of District 5. You can see there's 5 of those specific strategic investment areas within each of those. There's a whole series of projects. I'm not going to go through everything you see on this slide, but the notion here and the takeaway I want you to have is there is a plan. We have essentially a set of projects within each of those areas we're essentially ready to implement with funding available and with sort of an action plan that can be executed. Now I'm going to zoom in because what we did and what Council gave us just this last year was part of a capital investment sort of pilot for the strategic investment area. So through the bonds that got adopted this past fall, $55 million of that package was utilized and targeted to these strategic investment areas as a way to test what I just described. Like, could we take all of that work and actually begin to prove that we could put things on the ground and could actually implement this strategy across the city? So one of those areas we wanted to test first was in the Far East. So we took a look at the Harrisburg Road corridor. This is a snapshot of what that looked like. What we did is we had our team take a look, sort of walk along that corridor, do sort of a full-scale investigation of what all the needs and priorities would be, and came up with a game plan. So you can see this map describes dozens of projects along that corridor, big, small, short-term, long-term. And the notion is instead of thinking about all of these things as big, major projects that take years to occur and to get implemented, what if we had a game plan that was essentially a series of small projects that lead to investment cumulatively over time? The notion that we build sidewalk gaps piece by piece with a strategy gets us to a corridor build over a period of time that actually builds the investment that needs to be made, piece by piece, project by project. Again, I encourage you, we have a brochure that has all this information so you can actually see what this looks like. Oh, and there it is. So there's a brochure you could get in the back. It'll have this full map. It gives you a detail of sort of the projects that are in each of those, and it gives you a sense of how we're prioritizing this investment. So again, this is a snapshot. It's a great opportunity tonight to show you because this is one of the areas that we actually looked at. Imagine what that looks like across the city. So the intent is, with larger funding over a longer period of time, we would take this approach, apply it to neighborhoods and places across the city with the same approach. Getting investment on the ground quickly, targeted to the needs that are in each location, each neighborhood. Some of them are, the needs that we have in neighborhoods are dramatically different. So each of these plans are tailored to the specific characteristics and the character of neighborhoods across the city. Share with you a success. So this is a piece of Harrisburg Road corridor that we just got implemented over this past year. The message I want to send to you, again, is the example of doing things quick. So this was a small piece of sidewalk. It was a gap. We had the team out there looking at it this past August. We got our crews out there in December starting to build it, and we actually had it finished in January. So again, it was a way of understanding that we have things that we could do quickly. We could get them targeted with funding. We could actually build them. And again, it's part of an overall strategy that with addition of these projects, we're actually creating long-term investment on this corridor. It's a good point I want to make here too tonight about why even small projects are important. So the project I just described, again, we did it quick. Part of the reason was it was only 350 feet of sidewalk. It was 350 feet of sidewalk of a gap, so it connected to miles of additional sidewalk. But as you can see here, it also happened to be where one of the bus stops is on the Harrisburg Road corridor. So the idea that we're connecting to multiple modes, that we're thinking about holistically the needs of the neighborhood, targeting specific examples of investment that we can do quickly, even when they're small, right? They can have big impact. And so that's really the premise and sort of the mission we have with this investment package over time. Again, excited to be able to share that example here and a good example of how that investment could be played out on East Charlotte. So I'll stop there. I want to put this QR code up there because you can see all of the detail. You can see projects across the city. You can obviously get to the detail that's happening in Harrisburg. There's more projects underway in the Harrisburg Road corridor, so there'll be more to come. We'll have announcements and ribbon cuttings that will be happening over this next year with the projects and the investment that we're making. So again, the notion that we have a strategy, we have a plan. The last thing I'll say is that plan is contingent on funding. If you've been following the conversation that's been happening over the last year, that's a conversation we've been having across the county, with the towns, with the county, with the city of Charlotte, looking at a way in which we could fund transportation investment over the long horizon. We know we needed new funding, and so the conversation that's been had is around a sales tax for more transportation and transit investment. What's on the table, what's been introduced and discussed is the idea of a 1-cent sales tax. That sales tax would cover a range of transportation and transit investment. So for Charlotte, that investment would include everything I've just described. For the towns, it would include investment for them to make similarly in roads and transportation investment. And then also, and again, I know many of you are familiar with this, it would include funding for transit. The transit team is also behind us tonight. Maybe some of you already talked to them. So part of that sales tax would invest in the transit vision, the transit plan that CATS has, and they're currently in the process of updating that plan. So you've got lots of information behind you. You can talk to that team about what that update to that transit plan looks like. It's looking at investment both in our rail plan and our rail corridors, but also investment in our bus system. One of the things I'll say, and certainly would love for you to talk more with our transit team about this, is we've lost sight a little bit about the opportunity of our bus investment. As I described to you just now, the notion that we can couple and should be coupling better pedestrian road infrastructure to tie to our transit. This transit investment potential with the sales tax would increase dramatically the frequency of our bus system. It would create, if you have not heard of these yet, you could talk to our transit team about what this looks like. It would create micro-transit zones across the city that would give you the ability to have on-demand, almost like an Uber-type service for transit. It would pick you up at your home, take you to a grocery store, take you to a job, and take you back without the need for a fixed route corridor, without the need to think about a bus schedule on a specific street. It gives you really a new way to move within neighborhoods, just like in the kinds of needs that you have on the east side. The Harrisburg corridor is one of those places that would have microtransit. So the notion of what I just described of pedestrian investment, better walkability, better connection to our transit system is completely tied with this investment that we'd make regionally with transit. So lots to come around that transit investment and transportation investment discussion. The message here is the city of Charlotte is ready to make that investment. We're tying it to the needs of our neighborhoods and our community. It's anticipating the potential for transit investment, all with the goal of getting people access to better affordable housing, access to job opportunities. Everything we do is tied to the ability to give us opportunity for better economic mobility for everyone that lives in Charlotte. Transportation is a big part of that, so I'm glad to sort of set the stage and continue the conversation this evening around how all this relates to workforce, job opportunities, and economic development. So I'll stop there, and I think I turn it over to Danielle to continue the conversation.
Actually, oh, thank you, Ed. That was pretty comprehensive. Y'all give Ed a round of applause. Ed is fantastic, you guys. Both Ed and Danielle are two humans that the city brought on board to emphasize transportation and workforce development. It's the first time that we've done this. So we have two special assistants that were created by this council to focus and emphasize on transportation with an expertise on transportation and a longstanding emphasis on workforce development. So I'm really proud of that, because with those two stakeholders, we're going to take conversations like these to the next level. They're inextricable. And you're going to hear from our panel. I'm very excited about our panel. At a previous town hall, Shah came and he explained to me, and it was just astounding, the Mecklenburg County land use study. And I had no idea that existed. Why do businesses decide to come to certain places to set up shop? And one of the main answers to that question was proximity to transportation. And because, you know, East Charlotte, a large majority of our geography is inland. We're more infield. We are single-family houses, and the real only approximation we have to highways is to 485. And you see that area in our far east, it's booming. Businesses are going out there left and right. Why? Because it is adjacent to that highway. And so when we ask ourselves that question and we look at ourselves, or we look at some of these decisions objectively, we know right away with some of that information that, you know, our leaders have and focus on a regular basis. This is why a lot of our businesses are making those types of decisions. So in the interim, we have human beings with a laser focus on transportation, like Ed, trying to solve to that issue. We're not going to build a highway to the far east because it's just not conducive. So how do we move our people? How do we make it conducive for them to get to the jobs that are created? So again, I don't want to take away from the panel, but I stood up for two reasons: to emphasize that before I give it to Danielle, and also to honor the fact that our Mayor Valals, is here with us tonight. And thank you so much for being here. It means a whole lot to me that you're here tonight. And with that, I'm going.
You know that, right? I want you to know that this Charlotte City Council This Charlotte City Council has taken steps beyond anything that I would have been aware of when I came here. You know, I started off as a budget analyst. I couldn't do what they do anymore because they're smarter than me. So I just want to say that when you look at our Charlotte City Council, they work hard, and they want to communicate, and they want to share information with you. And absolutely, that makes the difference. It makes us stronger as a city, and stronger as we have to go through some, I think, perhaps, you know, difficult times. And we all know that we are in some difficult times, but I would say to you, you've got the right team to do the right things and not to worry too much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Mayor Lyles. And with that, I'm going to turn this meeting over to Ms. Danielle Frazier, who is going to lead you through the next series of conversations.
Thank you, Councilwoman Molina. Good evening, everyone. I am Danielle Frazier, and I lead the Office of Workforce Development here for the City of Charlotte, and I am happy to be here with you all this evening talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, of course, workforce development, and excited about the panel as well, and to dive deep into a panel of amazing experts that will talk to you more. But before that, just want to give you a quick update on workforce development and some of our efforts and where we're headed. So I'm going to ask a very silly question. How many of you are familiar with the Chetty report, what we affectionately call the Chetty report, that came out about 11 years ago now? Hands up if you're familiar with it. We ranked Charlotte 50 out of 50 for economic mobility, meaning if you were born in the lowest income quintile in our city, you only had a 4.4% chance of increasing or rising to the highest income quintile in our community. How many of you are familiar with the update and the refresh to this data that came out last fall, by a show of hands? So you'll see that we do rank a little different. We have done a little bit better. We're now 38 out of 50 for economic mobility, and we are one of 3 fastest growing cities for economic mobility progress. While we're excited about this progress, we know there is still a whole lot of work to be done to solve some of our economic mobility challenges, our disparities. And so excited to talk to you more about some of the work that we've done over time. One of the things that the City of Charlotte did, as well as a lot of other organizations on the heels of this study that came out, was did an internal look at our organization to say, how are we helping our internal team with economic mobility, and how are we helping our City of Charlotte employees advance within the organization, as well as I stand here before you today, as Councilwoman Molina mentioned, the City of Charlotte Council made workforce development one of their strategic initiatives a couple of years ago. And so not just looking internal at how we're supporting our city employees, but how are we supporting our community talent, and through investing in great programs that are supporting development and helping to job and to place our community talent in employment. And so I'm going to share a little bit more with you about that and some of our efforts. One of the things that we're excited about, we established the first Office of Workforce Development last year in May. And our office, I have a great, amazing team. I have a team member here in the audience somewhere that is leading some great efforts. And so we serve two functional areas in our office. So one is, again, the support of our city team. So we've got roughly about 9,000 city employees across our organization that we support through different career development and advancement services. So we have some very specific programs that we have through our registered apprenticeship programs, through our career training academy, that we bring talent into our organization, as well as one that we're really excited about. It's our education to employment program that we just launched last year with Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools to help employ students newly graduating that are not on an enlistment and military track or an education enrollment track, but employment track. And so we are excited about investing in our early talent pipeline through that program. The other piece of the house is the investment in our community talent. And so that's through grants that we fund through community partners such as NC Works, who we have in a resource table, hopefully that you all see before you leave, through partners with White Label Management, Urban League, and Goodwill. And so we fund a lot of these training programs that are helping to support our talent through these specific areas around career coaching and navigation, on-the-job training programs, making sure that our talent has the essential skills, the soft skills. I heard a stat some years ago, I don't know if it's still true, but I think it was around the percentage of 85% of individuals lose their job due to a lack of soft skills, not the technical skills, right? So soft skills are so important: communication, time management, problem solving, all of the things that span all occupations and industries. And so not just with that, but also making sure that they have the technical skills, right? So the education and supporting them through training scholarships, as well as financial literacy, and ultimately job placement. And so these are the things that my office helps to support with both our city employee talent as well as our community talent. So we're really excited that we just had our first, our workforce development strategic plan that was just blessed and accepted by council, I think within the last 2 weeks, actually. And you'll see here our vision and mission and what we're really trying to do. And it boils down to ensuring that our talent has access to the resources, the skills, the credentials in the community, that they can get the training, the credentials they need to get a good paying job in Charlotte. As well as making sure that our businesses have access to skilled talent. And so this is what our plan focuses on. We've got 3 focus areas and 3 goals, as well as 9 different strategies that we will begin to implement in the coming months. And so I'm going to share just a little bit more and dive a little bit deeper into these 3 areas. Our first area, focus area in our goals, is career pathway access and awareness. And this is expanding access and awareness of our in-demand career pathways in the Charlotte area. We want to make sure we're doing our part and our role in helping to communicate what jobs are here, what jobs are growing, whether it's in healthcare and life sciences or construction and skilled trades, in technology. And we want to make sure that our residents know what occupations are growing, how do you access those resources in the community to get into those training programs, again, ultimately to land a job. Our second goal is around skill development and credential attainment. And so that's to enhance workforce skills, education to support the demand for the current and future talent needs. And so these are areas that we support through, again, our grant-funded programs, whether it's with our NCU Works, our Urban League, our Goodwills, our Central Piedmont Community College. So we continue to invest in programs that help to support skill attainment and credential attainment for our talent. And lastly, it's about job placement and career advancement. And so how do we as a city connect more of our talent to sustainable employment in our community? And so whether that's through economic development investments when businesses are looking to relocate and expand in Charlotte, making sure that we're playing a bigger role in connecting that talent to the jobs, whether it's talent that's coming through our training programs that we're funding, or it's coming through all of this infrastructure opportunity that might be coming down the line through building the infrastructure and then maintaining it, but also through opportunities around when we think about the Pearl. And how many of you are familiar with the medical school that is here? Well, it's coming here. I think they're actually getting ready to launch the first cohort soon. And so a lot of opportunities, and we want to make sure that we're playing a role in connecting the talent with those jobs that are going to be available now and in the future. And so lastly, you saw this slide because Ed presented this earlier, but when we think about workforce development, we think about it as really one of the cross-cutting areas of the organization. There are so many different strategic plans, whether it's around mobility, around housing, around sustainability, around economic development, or our Charlotte Business Inclusion. Workforce development touches all of those different areas. And so when we think about how we move our workforce development plan forward, we'll be focused on what are some of these projects that are happening right now where workforce development plays such a role, whether it's around mobility, infrastructure, healthcare, all of these different opportunities where the city makes some significant investments in, as well as how we just play that bigger role and play a better partner in how we bring talent and connect them with our business community. And so I know I went through that kind of fast, but I think you're here to hear this panel of experts, and you'll hear how all of this works together more through our discussion. And so I'm going to pause right there because I know we have questions coming later. Here's a contact and an email if you have some questions. I'm going to leave that on the screen. But for the panel, if I could, as I'm saying your name, if you all could come up, and then we're going to transition to our panel discussion. And so with you all this evening, we have Shahid Rana from, yes? Yes. He is the Mecklenburg County Deputy Director of Economic Development. We also have Todd DeLong, who is our Assistant Director of our City Economic Development. We also have Aaron Gillespie, who is our Executive Manager for our Corridors of Opportunity. And last but certainly not least, we have Ed McKinney, who is our Special Assistant to City Manager for Mobility. And so we are going to segue into our panel discussion. I'm going to flash this back on the screen. All right. Well, panel, are we ready? I'm excited. I hope you are as well. So we're going to jump right into this, and I know you all are wanting to hear more about how all this connects, and I know you got some great questions. And so I'm going to ask the group if we could just take a couple of minutes, and Ed, I'm going to let you off the hook here because you already did a spill. But if you all could take a couple of minutes, introduce yourselves and introduce your work, and talk about some of the work that you're leading.
Sure.
And we can go right down the list.
We'll go down the line. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, just want to make sure. I'm just gonna do my best to not have any technical difficulties. So I'm Erin Gillespie, and I am the city's executive manager for the Corridors of Opportunity program. That is the city's.
So if everybody that is not speaking, turn off their mic, and just the person speaking.
Fantastic. Okay. I am not giving up the mic quite yet. Can't remember the exact wording. So Erin Gillespie, Corridors of Opportunity, that's the city's strategic initiative on how we are investing into 6 priority areas. Details on some of that later.
Good evening. My name is Todd DeLong. I'm an Assistant Director of Economic Development for the City of Charlotte's Economic Development Department. For those of you who may not be familiar with our department, we really work to catalyze private investment, stimulate development, support small businesses and entrepreneurs, and create opportunities to generate job growth throughout the entire City of Charlotte. We're particularly focused on ensuring that the economic growth is inclusive and that it impacts all of our residents and all of our communities throughout our city, and that everybody benefits from the resources and opportunities that come from solid and thoughtful and meaningful economic development initiatives. East Charlotte in particular has a rich and diverse business community, and we're working to strengthen it through initiatives like our business matching grant program, small business support programs, and really thoughtful and creative public-private partnerships along the way. And for us, economic development is a healthy and thoughtful blend of place-based, business-based, and people-based economic development strategies. And we really want to make sure that residents have access to good jobs, small businesses have the support they need to thrive, and that neighborhoods have the necessary foundation to drive investment and enhance the community amenities in the neighborhoods. I'm really excited to share a little bit more about some of the details on some of the projects, particularly those in East Charlotte. With one in particular, I think some of you might be really interested in learning about a little bit more than some of the others, but really excited about all the different, particularly the public-private partnerships that range in size that are really impacting the long-term prosperity for East Charlotte. So thank you. Look forward to the conversation.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Shahid Rana. You can call me Shah. I'm the Deputy Director for Economic Development for Mecklenburg County. And first and foremost, thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity, and also Councilwoman Molina. Thank you for the invite for the second time. It's a great opportunity to partner with the city on various initiatives. Well, I'll start personal first. I'm actually your neighbor. I live in University City, very close to a lot of the residents here who live in District 5. And I'm a transplant from Philadelphia by Maryland, by DC. And one of the things that was very interesting about Charlotte to me was that it had so many opportunities, and it was such a great city. And that's mainly because of the leadership and its people. And coming to Charlotte and wanting to serve in government was truly an honor because of the partnerships that exist here. At Mecklenburg County, we're a full-service economic development agency. So we focus on workforce, small business, MWSB opportunities, business attraction and retention. And my primary responsibility is to help bring in new jobs and investments into Mecklenburg County. And oftentimes you hear about city government and county government, but I would like to share with you, every city resident is a county resident. So everyone here today, you're still under the service of county leadership as well. We not only partner with the city of Charlotte, but also with our 6 towns to the north, Huntersville, Davis, and Cornelius, and also to the south, Mint Hill, Matthews, and Pineville. And I'm excited to share just some information about the county and how we can continue our partnership with the city. Thank you.
Thank you all. So Todd, let's come back to you. You said something, I love the word solid and thoughtful economic development. And so you mentioned some of the things and the projects that have been happening. And so talk about, before you lead into the projects, what role has public-private partnerships played in advancing economic development, specifically in the east side?
Thank you. So we in Charlotte, I think we've been fortunate to have a long, successful history of sound public-private partnerships throughout the city. And it's not just some of the big ones. A lot of people like to focus on the stadiums, the arenas, some of those that really get a lot of attention, but they really range in all shapes, sizes, and forms, which I'll kind of get into a little bit more detail in a few minutes. And I think our partnership with the public sector really provides an opportunity to maximize the resources from both the private side and the public side to generate the results or the outcomes that we're looking for to help support the community's goals around economic development, job growth, private investment, just creating a great place and a higher quality of life in our community. And by leveraging these public-private partnerships, we can assure that the new investments, that they're aligning with what these goals are, and making sure that we're not just doing it by ourselves, and we're leveraging assets and with the county, we're leveraging with the nonprofit sector, we're leveraging with the private sector. All these come together to really help lean on each other to drive forward what we're trying to do in our community, and that is trying to create a higher quality of life for everyone else. And I think three come to mind, and specifically in East Charlotte, that kind of show you the range of some of our public-private partnerships. The first is the East Town Market, and I think this is a great center where we have partnered with the owner of that center with our business matching grant programs to improve the facade, security, and help create a more curated tenant mix that really drives what that center can be for the community. And what I find is that that center really acts as a town center and as a sort of a downtown for the surrounding communities. It's got a mix of tenants that's not just your traditional strip center types of tenants. It has a dentist office. It has some office space. It has food and beverage. It has a mix of everything that really strives to be sort of that community hub of commerce for the neighborhoods around there. Another one is the Katie Blessing Center. I think this was mentioned a little bit earlier. This is one that's a prime example that our P3s aren't just about real estate. We are able to work with the Katie Blessing Center to deliver something that I think is not only provides a lifeline for the residents and the community for significant healthcare needs, but also creates long-term prosperity and framework of creating jobs, as well as having a job training program within their center that they have committed to as part of our partnership. They are getting into a growing sector of the healthcare industry. So it's one of those things that it does both. It creates a social impact as well as an economic impact. And the last one that I'll lead with, and you might want to take a drink of water before I get into this one, but this was the Eastland Yards redevelopment.
You want to drink of something else?
So, you know, it's maybe selfishly speaking, but I think the Eastland Yards redevelopment is one of the most impactful redevelopments in our region. I think it's got the chance where you know, we already see the construction underway already. It's set to bring in new businesses, new residents, and new community amenities that are really important to this corridor, and things that we've really heard from a lot of feedback along the way from the last 15 to 20 years. Just to kind of walk you through the side of where things are going. So if you haven't driven by it and you haven't seen a lot of the activity, it's really impressive to see what it once was 10 years ago and where it is today, and seeing the activity that's there right now. Starting from, if you can visualize from from west to east, where next to the Movement School, the Evoke Living at Eastland Yards, that opened in December, and now we have residents actually living on the site. That is 70 units that are age restricted to 55 plus, and households that are earning up to 80% of AMI. And so to think about that, the rents for that are somewhere between, where is it on my list? I thought I had it here. Oh, $450 to $1,600 a month. So this really provides an opportunity for folks who are living in the area or living in Charlotte to age in place in an affordable way with a high quality of life, not only within the building, but also outside of the building with the adjacent development going on around it. If we take a little bit of a walk to the east, we start to get into the construction where the two mixed-use buildings are going to be. This totals 274 units of multifamily market rate housing, and that will sit on top of 16,000 square feet of commercial space. What I think is really unique about the commercial space is that the city is going to do something we've never done before, and we're actually going to lease that space from the developer, and then we're going to sublet it with the intent of providing opportunities for small and local businesses to take part in what we consider to be a very transformative redevelopment in East Charlotte. And so the first building, I think, is going to be delivered in August of 2025, and the second building will be in September 25. So think about the progression that we've been making in the last 6 to 8 months. I think I don't want to sell it short that we have people living on the property and the impact that that first building has on the rest of the site, where people actually see there's something here. And it really starts to draw more interest from private developers, from tenants. It really starts to bring the types of tenants that we've been hearing for a number of years, from the years long of engagement that we've had on this property, what people say are missing in East Charlotte. This site can't solve all of it, but it starts to catalyze it, where it starts to generate some of that, and this has some of those solutions, and then others come around it. And so really excited about that. And then as we look across the street, the city just conveyed about 4.5 acres to the county where they will be building a park. The design of that park is almost complete, and they're going to be going out to bid pretty soon. I suspect it'll be done within 10 to 12 months, somewhere around there for the park. So it just brings another layer of activity and excitement to the east side. Also allows for opportunity that we can start to market to the higher quality tenants that we're looking for, and provides opportunities for a customer base for small businesses within that commercial space. Looking behind that multifamily project, that's where the single family and townhome development will go. We closed on our first phase of that development in, I think it was in December, And now the home builders, Carlson Southeast has done a fantastic job of doing a lot of the site work, getting ready for the home builder to come in. They will be starting that, and I think we're going to have the first homes being delivered, I think, in the fall of 2025. Will be the first single-family homes that will be built on that property. So we're really excited to see a lot of the activity that's going on in there. And lastly, the sports complex. We go further east. We're in the process of working with the sports teams on the necessary agreements that take place from the ground leases to the reimbursement agreements and a lot of other stuff that it really is not very exciting to talk about. But what I think is really exciting is the way these teams are really working together. They've already generated a lot of excitement and energy from folks around the country who are looking to utilize those facilities in the way that brings the activity to East Charlotte. And we're really I think we're in a really great place right now with both the teams to be set up to start construction on the site work probably sometime in August, or I'm sorry, sometime this summer, hopefully no later than August. And then that sets the timeline for actually delivering the soccer fields and for the indoor sports facility, which would be an attraction for East Charlotte and for the larger benefit. So I'm sorry I took a little bit too much time, but there's just a lot of stuff going on the east side, and I'm really excited to see the catalytic impact that this development has in a way that actually allows the folks who are living right next to it and working next to it and have a business next to it can really take advantage of that and really benefit from that as well.
Thank you, Todd. Take another sip of water. That was awesome. Right, thank you. Yeah. A lot going on. I'm learning so much, so I knew I was gonna learn a lot this evening. Both of you and Shaw, we're gonna stay in the economic development space, talked about how important partnerships are as well as jobs, right? So let's go there. So Shaw, if I could come to you and ask you, what are some ways that Mecklenburg County and the city of Charlotte are partnering to bring jobs to the East community?
That's a great question, Danielle. One of the primary ways that Mecklenburg County partners with the city of Charlotte is through a program we call the Business Investment Program. So one of the core functions of economic development is new taxable investment and new job creation. So when you hear about initiatives to help with infrastructure and potentially utilizing taxes to provide new infrastructure, a part of bringing new businesses in brings new jobs at livable wages, but number two, it diversifies the tax base. So if you don't have corporations and companies, all of the tax burden falls on the residents. So this is an opportunity that cities can utilize that tax revenue. It goes back to a general fund, and then your elected officials can set priorities along with the managers for the towns, the city, and the county to disperse those funds towards programs that you all benefit from today. So just this past, I would say 6 months, the city and the county have partnered on 3 business investment program grants. With those 3 projects, we've brought in over $32 million in new taxable investments. We also had 350 new jobs. And then also, too, a part of our program is not only for new job creation, it's also retention. So with this program, we were able to also keep 750 jobs within Charlotte. So with this type of program, we often hear where you're bringing new jobs in, and what about the companies that are here? We've actually retained more jobs that we actually brought in from other places. So this is a huge highlight because in today's economy, there's a lot of vulnerabilities in the business world, and keeping jobs here to make sure that they not only stay here but grow is a key priority, not only for Mecklenburg County's commissioners, but also the City of Charlotte's council as well. So with that being said, it's not just about jobs that we bring in. We make sure that each company, what we call, have career ladder opportunities. So there's several sectors that we often recruit to the City of Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. And when you hear of a financial firm, some of those jobs may require advanced degrees and certifications, but one of the things that we're very intentional about is making sure that companies have opportunities up and down the spectrum. For example, if we're bringing in a financial institution firm, they may have certified public accountants, controllers, and alike, but guess who they also hire? Marketing professionals, HR professionals, customer service as well. So when we're looking to bring in a company, we want to make sure that there's opportunities for everyone. So we look at companies who ban the box. We look at companies who provide on-the-job training and educational opportunities. We also examine their retention rate as well. And we also want to make sure that they're partnering with our local workforce providers, higher ed institutions, and that they're also a good community neighbor. When we recruit companies in, it's not just a company, you're becoming a part of our ecosystem. The people who work in those buildings are going to live beside you. Their kids are going to go to school with your kids as well. They're going to go to places of worship with you as well. So we always want to make sure that we're inviting good corporate citizens to the city. So those are just a few ways that we partner with the city of Charlotte to bring good jobs. And again, that program is called the Business Investment Program. Now, there's certain thresholds for this program. Number one, a lot of our guidelines for this programs are based off of state statute. There's a provision called the but-for clause, which means that if it was not but for this investment, the company would not come here. So the city and the county goes through an exhaustive due diligence process to understand just the legalities. There's also has to be competition, meaning that this company could potentially move to a different state. So that's also verified as well. And that we also verify the jobs and the salaries. We want to make sure that the opportunities that are brought before the residents in our community have livable wages. So we want to make sure that we don't bring in dead-end jobs or things that are going to be obsolete in a few years, but we're not only hiring for today, but also jobs of the future. So I'll pause right there.
Thank you, Shaw. We're going to come back to that and talk about a stronger connection between economic development, workforce development, and the things that you're doing. But we want to get Aaron in on some of this because there's some great work going on in the corridors. And so, Aaron, can you talk a little bit about what are some of the priorities for jobs, workforce mobility in the playbook that I think there are copies of that folks can grab on their way out or on their way in? And can you share what some of those projects are?
Absolutely. So as a kind of reminder, Corridors is the city's strategic investment into 6 areas. Central Albemarle is one. And when we first started working in the corridor, our approach is all about centering very intentional engagement and, data collection and making sure that before we are making recommendations on how we should be investing into the corridor or what projects, programs we should be uplifting, we really want to verify that we have a good understanding of the city, of the corridor and the community's priorities. And so that is what that playbook document is. It is meant to be a strategic plan. We were out a couple years ago. It feels like it was just yesterday, where we had a couple months of really intensive engagement, popping up a number of different places and with different communities to make sure we really understood what are the housing, jobs, infrastructure needs, but also what are the program needs? What are the, programs or what are the, priorities like supporting youth and family, placemaking, making sure that our investments are really centered and grounded in the, amazing, diverse, different populations and communities that call the corridor home. And then most importantly, how do we make sure that the city's investments aren't having any adverse impact, and really making sure the folks who live there, who own a business there, along the corridors, can benefit from all of this investment and can stay. So we heard a lot of things about job. It's the highest ridership corridor that we work in for transit. And so we knew that, to Ed's points earlier, in those projects in the SIA, those, last connection points are so critical to accessing that larger system. So it really is sometimes about filling in the gaps where they exist. We also know there are a number of folks who call this corridor home, and it's where they might, when they're first moving to Charlotte, it's where they land. There's a lot of apartment communities, a lot of density, even more apartments, and those are all folks who are looking for that community to get in when they come here to Charlotte. So we understood that making sure and we're preserving that naturally occurring affordable housing, that really is an asset for this corridor and is an important engine for the entire community, is really important. So our, kind of early implementation out of the playbook, which I guess this is when I should say, we've got a couple copies. So this playbook was completed 3 years ago. So I still have some executive summaries, but all of our playbook documents are online on the city website on the corridors page, but I do have copies on the other side of this wall. If you all are interested or want to kind of refresh your memory of what we looked at. So our work is really organized based off of 6 of the 10 city goals in the long range, the 2040 comprehensive plan. So corridors work and our implementation is organized based on the 6 that are most closely tied to economic mobility. That's what a lot of our work centers on. But we are connecting the dots across city investments and programs in housing, culture, identity, placemaking, making sure there's diverse and resilient economic opportunities, mobility, really looking at integrated natural built environment, all of these things that make the place a place. This corridor and area in particular had one of the top assets that the community told us was the tree canopy. In a city of trees where that's such an important value for us, this corridor has that right now and wants to really make sure that those are protected, especially within the well-established neighborhoods. So our investments so far have been in tackling some of those key priorities. And then we have also made sure that when we can take advantage of some pretty unique funding opportunities, that we are directing it here and making sure that the corridor and East Charlotte is benefiting from some of these larger city opportunities and investments. So when it comes to jobs, I know we talked about Spark Centro. They keep showing up right as I mention them. So Spark Centro, led by the Latin American Chamber, is an incredible project. It'll be so unique really for the entire city, creating that hub for businesses, nonprofit agencies, service providers on the east side. So we were able to support that project and really making sure that all of the partners that we work with on the east side, have a home and can access the community more directly. Another thing that came out is making sure that we're providing services for all of the different language communities in Charlotte. And so Albemarle is where we started providing or supporting in-language support for small businesses. So our partners there, Prospera, have hosted a series of workshops and trainings that are in Spanish, and have been able to really get a lot deeper into that community and make sure that their business needs are met. Charlotte has a fantastic network of entrepreneurship, small business, workforce partners, but what we found is they're really not able sometimes to access, they're not showing up necessarily or not present in the corridors. And so between our small business service support, our opportunity hubs, that's how we're able to really bring those services into the community, and you can access them, right on the corridor. Another thing, we are not forgetting about our creative workers. So last year, we also were able to award creative space funding to the Simmons YMCA, they are carving out a part of their building and reimagining it as studio space for artists. So it'll be affordable, working, productive art space. And so that's just sort of another, way we're filling that gap and thinking about all types of workers.
So Aaron is very modest. I think the Corridors Directors Team meets, we meet bi-weekly, and these are team members from all across our organization: police, planning, economic development, water. I mean, all across, that we are partnering on all of these different ways across our organization to better our corridors. And so there are other communities that actually seek after us in this model, and we get a lot of funding because of this model, and we're looking at these very specific ways of how do we bring all of these programs and services to our corridor. So leading some great work, Aaron. So Ed, we want to bring you back into the conversation, sir. You mentioned in your intro and your overview, you talked about the strategic investment areas. Can you touch a little bit more and go a little deeper on that, on what they are, how they're benefiting communities, and more specifically on the east side?
Sure. Let me start in thinking about what you just heard and all of the activity, all the investment that's happening across the city and certainly on the east side. Let me start by something I didn't describe but alluded to related to the transit system plan. There's this vision, which I think is really exciting, around the better bus system. And that vision has a real impact on a place like District 5 and the east side. That vision is around increased coverage and access. That was the microtransit I'll talk about. That includes taking all of our bus corridors, the highest frequency bus corridors, and essentially doubling the frequency of those corridors so that you have greater access and freedom from the frequency of that access. It also includes investing in and essentially rebuilding all the bus stops. As many of you may know, and you certainly see this on the corridors, a lot of those don't even have a basic place to stand. And so the infrastructure, both the service, the frequency, the physical connectivity of our transit system is a big part of that better bus vision. What does that mean? And so the frequency, let me talk a little bit about that frequency on those corridors. So 15 corridors across the city, several of them, and a lot of them on the east side, would be 15-minute frequencies, meaning a bus would come every 15 minutes. What does that mean? Today, the Blue Line transit corridor, light rail, comes every 15 minutes. So what we're describing is corridors, bus corridors, that would have the same frequency as our current rail system. That is a level of access would put almost 400,000 people within a half mile of those bus corridors. So think about the access and the focus that we put around our transit stations on the Blue Line, and extending that on corridors throughout the city and across our neighborhoods, particularly the east side being a great example. 400,000 people now within a half-mile walk of a corridor that has the exact same service as the Blue Line. That's a transformation, and particularly in places, lots of places in Charlotte, but east side is a great example of lower density neighborhoods, lower density commercial, that is hard to serve by transit, right? And it's hard to serve even by walkability. It's a long walk to a grocery store. So having that transit access is a sort of a game changer for lots of parts of Charlotte. Let me go back to the microtransit. So there's zones and sort of areas that will be defined across the city. One of those is an example in that corridor, the Harrisburg corridor I just described. So all of those projects that I've shown, the geography of that corridor would be completely covered by this district, where through a phone call or an app, you could get a microtransit vehicle, essentially a minivan, to show up at your home, pick you up, and take you where you want to go. That could be a grocery store, that could be your job, that could be to health care or other services. Essentially a door-to-door, curb-to-curb service at the cost of a current bus. It's $2.20, the same you would get for a bus, across neighborhoods. So think about what that looks like on the east side. You're not having to walk to a bus stop. You're not having to wait an hour or 30 minutes for that bus. You don't have to walk farther than getting out your front door to have access to that kind of transit service. The vision for that is 100 square miles of service districts, zones across the city that don't have transit service today. significant parts of that coverage on the east side. So expanding the geography of our transit access through those microtransit zones, essentially doubling the frequency on many of our corridors is a game changer for how we would move. What does that mean for these strategic investment areas? So what we're then trying to do is make sure that the basic infrastructure of the roads meets the potential of what I described from a transit standpoint. So what does that look like on the east side? You all know, we've heard in many of these kinds of meetings about what the needs are on the east side. They're very simple and very basic, right? A sidewalk, maybe some street lighting so you can feel safe and comfortable. Pedestrian crossings along these roads. Think about Harrisburg Road. Even if you had a sidewalk, trying to cross that road almost any time of the day is an adventure, right? Given the scale, the speed, the feel of that. That's sort of probably not a good word. Like it's a. And so, and there are miles, you know this, there are miles of corridors like that in Charlotte, but certainly very particularly on the east side. So these strategic areas are going to where those needs are, particularly along those corridors that are areas that will have microtransit, will have that bus service, but making sure then that we're meeting the vision of that bus system with a basic road infrastructure and corridor that respects, and dignifies the people that are using, the people that are living in neighborhoods and trying to live their daily lives. That infrastructure, that strategy around these areas is what that is about. We're trying to make sure that the investment that we're making across all modes, walking, biking, driving, using transit, is at a level that meets the needs of our community and then connects to all the things you just described. Think about all the things that this group just described in a microtransit zone, connecting to all that investment, right? Job opportunities, education, et cetera. Just think about what that looks like. And there's, again, the potential for that with new funding would be dramatic and would really amplify the investment that the city has made across all of these issues. So I wanted to paint that picture and tie it to what this transit vision looks like beyond just even the big rail corridors, the transit corridors, the investment in transit, bus service, microtransit service, infrastructure that we will put on the streets to make that work will extend into neighborhoods in a way that we've never imagined before, and that's really what this vision is all about.
Thank you, Ed. I think that's one of the things that excites me the most about this mobility opportunity and even this microtransit. One of the top barriers that we hear from our workforce is transportation, right? At one point, it was access to transportation, and when we were able to get bus passes and resources to them, then it became efficiency, right? It takes a while to get from one side to the other, and so this is what excites me the most about this, these opportunities that are potentially ahead. And so, Shah, I said I was going to come back to you and talk a little bit more about workforce development, economic development. So historically, workforce development and economic development worked in silos, right? Workforce development focuses on the talent development and the people. Economic development focuses on the businesses and the jobs. And so I think over the last, some years, we have come together and integrated a little bit more in how we work closer together, because when businesses are looking to expand, and I might be talking, tell me if I'm talking out of turn here. Businesses are looking to expand or relocate. One of the top three things they're looking for is, do we have the talent? And so we work now very closely together. And so, Shah, talk a little bit about what you all are doing at Mecklenburg County and the things that you are doing to help residents with increasing their job training opportunities and then as well as access to jobs.
That's a great question. I'm actually going to go back and add a footnote to what Ed shared. So the first part of my career, I was a city planner in Baltimore. And typically, when you have capital improvement projects and transportation projects, those were historically done through the census. And people will have to go out every 10 years, do surveys, understand the demand of the community. So what you have here in the city of Charlotte is transformative, where most cities are waiting for census-level data every 10 years. You're getting this level of engagement every night. So the speed, and Ed mentioned something about Harrisburg Road and just that 350 feet of sidewalk and how that was such a big deal. That typically does not happen that fast. So I just want to highlight and kind of shout out the city for their responsiveness in regards to transportation efforts, the planning, and in capital improvements, because my experience as a city planner, and then segueing into economic development, those things historically do not happen outside of the context of a 10-year census and really building your capital improvement project more in a long-range planning perspective. So this type of tactical approach, this type of strategic planning, and the resident-driven initiatives, to Danielle's point, is very cutting edge, and that's why cities are looking at Charlotte as setting precedent and really a case study for resident engagement in regards to overall redevelopment of the city. So I just wanted to pause there because the planning nerd in me, I'm also an economic developer, I'm certified, but my career started out in city planning, and I just wanted to highlight that. So I get excited when I hear this as well, and I know it's not the sexy things that you see in the paper all the time with recruitment in these large numbers, but what's happening here is really special.
You're coming to every meeting I go to now.
If you don't mind, I'd love for you, this is on the spot, I would love for you to just give a high-level overview of what you broke down at one of my previous town halls about the study.
Yeah.
And the way he went into it, I knew there was nerd in him on that level because he really explained it so very well. If you would touch that, it would just warm my heart so much.
I will do that, and I'll dovetail back into Danielle's question and tie it all together. So a few years back, the city of Charlotte partnered with Mecklenburg County, and we had this internal study called the Industrial Land Use Study, and it also had a jobs focus. And your southwest area of Charlotte, around Still Creek, is actually one of the highest concentrations of industrial facilities on the East Coast. So when you talk about per capita and the concentration of jobs in industry that you have there, is actually precedent setting, especially for a Southeast city. The challenge that you have is one of the highest concentration of manufacturing and industrial workers is on the east side. So you actually have the highest concentration of workers on the east side, and you actually have the highest concentration of jobs in Southwest. And if you've driven anywhere around Charlotte, you know there's no easy way to get from the east side to Southwest. You're cutting through South Charlotte, you're either coming down 74 and then taking 485, or you're coming back into Uptown and then you're going down 77. But just for a short 14-mile drive, it can take you anywhere between 48 and 52 minutes in non-peak traffic. So the challenge that we've had is how do we bring more mobility options to the residents? And then number two, how can we still provide job opportunities that don't disrupt the neighborhood context that you have? So the east side is primarily residential. And one of the beautiful things about the east side is it was not primarily really disrupted from urban renewal and mass highways. So on one side, you don't have the huge factories and employment centers that people can get to readily accessible. But on the flip side, you keep your neighborhood character and the beautiful homes and the culture that you have there. So without disrupting the neighborhoods and without disrupting the community, and more importantly, the cultural fabric that you have there, how do we move the people to where they need to go? And then number two, how do we provide them with educational opportunities and the information that you need? One of the key investments that the Mecklenburg County has made is through what we call our community resource centers. So although it's not in the East Side District, it's one light away. If you've ever been on Eastway in North Tryon, we have a new LB Scarborough Center. And one of the ways that Mecklenburg County wants to inform its residents about job opportunities and training is that these, what we call them CRCs, because government people love acronyms, our community resource centers, that it's a one-stop shop. And through our research, we realized that when someone comes through the door for a job, 9 times out of 10, there's other wraparound services that they need. So I already shared that I'm your neighbor and I live in a university, so we're already neighbors. So we're gonna have a transparent moment here. When I moved down to Charlotte, In 2018, I had an amazing job in the private sector. So I jumped out of the government sector doing community and economic development in the Philadelphia area. I came to Charlotte, worked private sector. Guess what happened in 2020? The pandemic, right? Guess who has a master's degree, graduate certificates, 15 years experience, certified, all of the credentials, et cetera. Guess who was laid off? Guess who had to go to Mecklenburg County Social Services to help provide for my 2 children as a single father? Right? So when life happens, no one's exempt. Your educational background, the letters behind your name, your LinkedIn profile, it was one thing for the whole world to shut down, but guess what? I still needed help. So I'm probably a unicorn in the sense that I was on Mecklenburg County Social Services because I didn't have a job. By the grace of God, I'm able to work for Mecklenburg County and provide thousands of jobs. So I can give you the testament from a lived experience. Thank you. All glory to God on this one. The services work. Why? Because I actually applied. I lived through it. This was a lived experience. So I'm just not giving you information. None of us here, because we all live in a neighborhood. This is a real thing for us, right? So one of the highlights that we have is our community resource centers. And as I mentioned before, it's at the corner of Eastway and North Tryon. There, you can be paired with a caseworker who can understand your educational background, your desired career trajectory, and they can put you in programs and provide wraparound services. So that way, the moment you get a job, you don't lose those benefits. The people here in Mecklenburg County can help you and provide a pathway for you. So that's the main thing that I want to highlight from Mecklenburg County in regards to educating residents about career opportunities, training, and job opportunities is through our CRC. And I'm going to say out a number. Is the number for the CRC is 704-336-3000, 704-336-3000. And you can come in to the Community Resource Center. It's a Class A environment. I know that I've been in several places in different cities, and sometimes going to government buildings can be very humbling. And just the environment, it's not pleasing, it's not uplifting, but Class A environment. This looks like one of the best airport lobbies I've ever been in, a hotel lobby. The level of customer service that you're going to receive, the money that was spent there to make sure that people can get help with pride and in dignity, and they're respected. So out of all of the things that we do, that's probably the highlight that I wanted to echo here tonight, is about our community resource centers, the Ella B. Scarborough Center off of Eastway and North Tryon. And that was strategic, huh?
And you're building another one on the east side.
And we're building another one. So Mecklenburg County, original one was a VCW off of Freedom Drive. The goal was to provide a center in basically northeast, south, and west. But that's the one thing I wanted to highlight, and then, leave that there.
Thank you, Shah, and thank you for sharing your personal experiences. We could talk all evening, but I know we probably want to get home at some time tonight. So we're going to pause on the questions, and we want to open it up to you all for any questions that you may have for the panel.
First off, can you guys hear me? Yep, okay. Thank you all for coming out tonight. And so I know that there's been a lot of information delivered, and there's so much to tell. I really, I don't want to harp on where we are as far as wins. We've got some major wins, but we've also got some work to do, and we realize that. And so that's why, in my opinion, I think we have we have great people working across the city and the county. We're in great hands. But I brought before you tonight some of the strongest that I could think of to address this question, because again, it can't be answered in a silo. So for about 10 minutes, I want to open up the floor. Few rules of thumb, right? We're respectful. We honor the fact that we have other people in the room, and I want to get as many questions that I can get answered while we have this panel here. And I also want to give you some time to look at some of the resources that we have in the back, because there's some great resource tables in the back for you to speak to some of our additional team members that we have here for us tonight. So there's a microphone on each of your tables. If you'll raise your hand, I could go ahead and recognize you if you have a question, and just tell me who you would like to answer your question, or I'll try to help you with who can get that question answered. Robert, you'll need to cut your microphone on so that we can hear you.
Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Danielle, I think you're doing a great job. Ed, I mean, obviously, everything you're doing, I think it's really important for them to know that first and last mile microtransit is not theory, that you're currently doing it now here. And so it's not something they're going to have to wait on for the next lifetime. I mean, speaking as a recovering politician, sometimes it takes forever. Aaron, you had mentioned about the unemployment rate that was about the same as the county. My question is job participation rate. I see a lot that, often that's not the number, isn't where we need it to be, and it's credited directly to childcare. What are we doing in this aspect? I hear about the affordable housing, I hear about workforce development. What are we doing about the childcare aspect of it?
Sure, I will tackle that as best I can, but also acknowledging that the childcare issue is unbelievably challenging. I think we all may have some, you've been impacted by it one way or the other, every single person in this room. So a little bit about that employment rate that I mentioned and that you brought up. So that, what Shaw was referencing, that industrial land use study, and then, having that aha of the folks who work there, live here, that's actually, that study was incorporated into our playbook, research, data collection, and engagement. So all of that was captured in here. And that's where, we really found out that folks are working, but they're working low-wage jobs, or if they are on maybe a higher wage, or it's a job that is maybe in a attractive sector of employment for Charlotte, it's not in the community. There's, the jobs that they weren't really necessarily on a career path, so they're kind of stuck at this low wage, maybe a service, retail type job, if they're working in the corridor. So, that's where a lot of our looking at how we bring access to all the network of resources that exist for Charlotteans, making sure that folks can access those was really important. So if you're a small business owner, if you are a daycare owner, a child care center employee, and you're looking to expand your own skill set, you can go somewhere like, one of our partner organizations that are on the corridor, have that front door one-stop shop where you can tap into that full network of resources. The childcare conundrum, absolutely, it impacts everybody. It is both it's the supply side, the demand side. Actually, Danielle and I have participated in conversations looking at it at the, not just the city, but the county level. There are incredible folks actually at the county who lead the way in a lot of the, birth to kindergarten arena. It's tricky. So personally, what we've looked at with economic development is making sure that what tools we have, folks know about it. So if it is a daycare center or child care center, which actually on Albemarle there was one, that took advantage of our business matching grant program. So they were able to refresh and renovate their space and be able to take advantage of our program for that. So it's making sure at least now they know what tools we have and how they work, and we'll work with any applicant on making sure that they're taking the most best advantage of the tool or the resource, and then what we don't have, making sure that we're able to refer out where we can, if it's a zoning building type issue, making sure we're providing those contacts and that kind of concierge service of working through that issue with them as best we can.
Thank you for that. And I think that's a great question as a single mother. And I, like Sha, found myself in a very similar circumstance. Safely married, 15 years, life changed. I started over, and you end up in circumstances that you don't really account for. And so you rebuild. And you find yourself at the Department of Social Services, like I did, to ask for help and find resources so that you can rebuild. And I was fortunate enough also to have signatures behind my name. But when I took this job, I realized that a grand wealth of the human beings that I represented didn't have that, right? And so then you know, the first time I sat down and I spoke to Shah, and he presented the information for the land use study, and I didn't even know his personal situation, then I was just blown away, because again, it answers so many questions. I think we have something special on the east side. We are, you know, we're built of hundreds of communities. We have human beings that have been in our area for decimal years, decades, and have raised their families and now have grandkids. We have mature trees like, you know, what our corridors team has brought to our attention. We have character, we have diversity, we have so many rich resources on the east side that deserve to be protected. And I know a lot of people come to me and they talk about TOD, and I think TOD has its place. And I think that that is an important conversation, but then there's the realistic portion of what we're looking at as a whole, right? And I'm gonna be completely transparent with you. The city of Charlotte is over 300 square miles. And just for context, Manhattan is about 25 square miles. They have, density-wise, 1.6 million people in 25 square miles. We're actually, before we annexed at our last zoning meeting, we were about 300, close to 320 square miles. The entire, all 5 boroughs of New York City are just a tad bit bigger, and they have 8.3 million people, right? And so they don't look out into their backyard with a whole lot of trees and deers and critters and things like what we enjoy on the east side. We have, you know, strategic investment areas that are looking at how can we, you know, look at our city, and as immense as we are as far as square mileage is concerned, how can we serve the residents and keep the character of certain areas, and have places like Uptown and the Blue Line and South End where people enjoy density and where, you know, they enjoy the character of having that neighborhood. And I think both can exist at the same time. And I think that is what makes Charlotte so super special, that in the same city, you can go from one area that is completely suburban, you can get in your car and hopefully on a bus that's frequent in the future with the right amount of funding, and get uptown at a reasonable amount of time. Again, I realize that these are things that we should do, we need to do, but we have to have the funding in order to do. But the purpose of this was to really freeze this moment in time, tell you where we are, be absolutely realistic about what we have on the table, tell you where our wins are, because we deserve to say that we've gotten some wins in East Charlotte, but understanding also that looking forward, we still have work to do. So with that, I'll stop and take another question if there's someone who has something burning on your heart. Make sure you cut the microphone on so that everyone can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, great. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Councilwoman, for hosting the town hall. My name is JD Masuera Arias. I wanted to know, how are you all thinking about public safety when it comes to jobs, economic development, you know, housing? It's a big issue in East Charlotte, and it's something a lot of neighbors are concerned about. And so how are you factoring public safety into all these developments? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start off with corridors, which is certainly just a small sliver of that. So, and, you know, community safety, I would say, for the city is a priority across all areas. And in corridors, we're really looking to amplify all of the different initiatives that the city has. So whether it's, you know, on the enforcement side, working with CMPD, making sure that their programs are, you know, reaching all the areas, and then also with, you know, if it's about youth engagement, looking at the full compass of what is community safety and what are the tools we can use to, mitigate violence, or make sure it's more than just enforcement, right? So in corridors, we were piloting a Safe Biz business security camera pilot. So this is, one very tiny sliver of the overall community safety pie, but so Safe Biz, we've just now expanded it to all corridors where business owners who are looking to make that investment to put up or renovate upgrade the cameras that they might have for their business can partner with CMPD, purchase the capability to integrate them into CMPD's real-time crime center. And if you are doing that through Economic Development's Business Matching Grant Program and you're located in a corridor, we'll actually reimburse those costs at a higher rate than the typical security grant. So we want to make sure that business owners who are willing to put in that investment for safety, which is really safety for their business, their employees, their customers, and the community around them, that they have the support that gets them everything they might need. So those upgraded cameras, lighting to make sure we can see what's on the cameras, any other kind of security enhancements that'll help with the property and with the community. So that is one thing that is new this week or this month, and we are eager to roll that out.
And I just want to chime in too, because that's good. And I wish there's one stakeholder, one leader that we have here in the city who's laser focused on that. His name is Sean Heath. And he's been working with, our public safety, our chief, and the stakeholders across our community to put together something comprehensive that we can deliver to the public. Right now, CMPD, which I've participated in, they have something where they're doing community chats. And actually, I see Representative Lopez. He's in the room. Raise your hand. He was, he represents the East Side in District 112. And he was recently at the Hickory Grove chat with me. We have 4 precincts that correspond with East Charlotte. We have North Tryon that corresponds with a portion of us. I know the captain and the team there. We have the Hickory Grove, the Eastway, and the Independence divisions that are all holding chats. And so basically, and if we'll get offline, I'll give you that information. And I welcome you to come to a chat. I think it's a great opportunity to meet the leadership of the precincts. They have a very active community safety and community engagement piece to what CMPD is actually doing with neighborhoods to build those relationships and build those bridges. Because aside from keeping us safe, these are also human beings that share these areas with us. They, live, and specifically Independence. Jesus Rendon, él es la persona que está encargado del Independence Boulevard, or the Independence Division. And he always does things in both English and Spanish. Y como yo soy una persona que habla en los dos idiomas, I'm always present at both. So I'm happy to get you that information offline so that, I welcome you to participate. You would love it. We've done cops and kids at Independence. We've done community chats with the, several communities, La Comunidad Latina, across the community. In both English and Spanish, bringing all of the bilingual officers and their officers who speak multiple languages across CMPD. So that is something that I'd love to give you more information about. And because I don't have Sean here, I don't want to wing it. I want to get you the information. I want to get you connected. And I would love to get you involved in what CMPD is actually doing across the East Side in those 4 precincts. That fair? Okay. Any more questions?
I had one question. It's kind of
You got to get your microphone.
I just want to know, being a firm that employs people, sometimes we're caught in a situation that the panel talked about. We have way more employees than we have jobs to send them to. And I want to know, would the CRC be a good resource to connect the bridge of that? And secondly, do we have any plans to bridge the corridor to the other side with trains when it comes to like public transportation, like rails and trains, like the more metro cities?
So for sake of time, because I know we're going to wrap up, and I saw somebody else with their hand raised, I'll get you the first one here for everyone to hear about the CRC, and then I'll get the second one for you offline. Because I want to get, like I said, we're going to, close up shop in about 15 minutes. I really want you to get access to those resource tables, and I also want you to get your questions answered. So feel free that, once the questions stop, if you still have something that's burning, tap me, tap one of the leaders. Make sure you get your questions answered, and if you don't, feel free to reach out to me, and if I can't answer it now, I'll find one of the community, one of our leaders that can help me get that answer for you. So.
I'll help you out as well. Your answer is yes. And the footnote to that is I'll be here to stick around so I could make a warm connection for you.
Awesome.
So y'all get your information.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Oh, wow.
Just for clarification, because I'm old. All right, at Eastland Yards, I know where Spark Centro is. I looked it up. It's on Albemarle Road. I sort of know. Where's the
W.T.
Katie
Harris.
Blessing Center? Or where is it going to be?
So the Katie Blessing Center is right across the street from Eastland Yards. It's on Central Avenue. I think there used to be another StarMed facility that was there. The city acquired that property in 2016, 17.
Okay, so it's across from the bus depot, that side?
Close, yes.
Yes, okay. And Evoke is living is at Eastland Yards, and that is the subsidized housing or the beginning of your housing, and it's available now for leasing?
That's correct. It's the senior affordable housing that is
Senior
right next to
affordable,
the
okay.
Movement School.
Okay, thank you. I needed that clarification because I didn't know where anything was, and I live there. Thank you.
Spark Central, it's on W.T. Harris across from the neighborhood Walmart. You know where the neighborhood Walmart is, and it's like a big open space and a building? It's right there across from there. Yeah. It's about 15 acres total, front to back, and all of that space they're going to renovate. And right around the corner, Mecklenburg County is widening the park. See, I can't even talk to you about Mecklenburg County. I don't want to steal their thunder. But right there around the corner from Spark Central, the little park that's right there up from East Haven, 27 acres of expanded park space right there as well, within walking distance of what will be Spark Central. So there's a lot of different things from both sides going on.
That's not open yet, though.
No, they haven't even began to break ground, but that's, actually within the next 6 months, 6 to 8 months.
And
So look
then
for
just for clarification, if I didn't mention it earlier, the Katie Blessing Center, I think they're going to start their construction or the rehabilitation of the existing facility probably within the next month or so, and then they're going to be open in 2026.
Hello. Thank you, Councilwoman Molina. I have one question that I'm actually struggling. I've been working a lot with the Asian community that's having language problems. So my question is, how is the city addressing language barriers that may prevent immigration from accessing job opportunity or career training?
I don't want to hog the mic here, but, so for corridors, I had mentioned we piloted that in-language small business support. We partnered with Prospera to provide that. And so we are eager to see how we can expand that pilot to make sure we're serving other language communities as well. So I would say we'll put
Yeah.
a stay tuned pin in that one.
Yeah, I would put a pin in that one. So also understand that I'm bilingual. I read, write, and I speak Spanish. So I got one covered. I come to all the Asian community events that I can get my hands on. You love me, you treat me well. I am grateful for your partnership. And I look forward to, in time, connecting those dots for the growing Asian community that we have on the east side. So stay tuned. I don't have a definitive answer for you now, but we can stay connected.
Councilwoman Molina, I can answer that one. So the City of Charlotte does have a language access plan, and all of our city departments have a language access plan to ensure that we are connecting with all of our languages here in the county, well, the city, I work for the city, in the city. So that is a program that we do have, a policy that we do have. However, we are linguistically challenged because we can't afford to do all 300 languages, and those are a lot. We have 300 languages here in Charlotte, and so to be able to provide all of those, we are basing all of our language access translations and interpretations on the top 5. However, if the community demands or asks or makes a request for language access, we do provide those. So I encourage everyone here that speaks another language to please, if you know that you or your community needs something translated, please don't hesitate to ask and make that request known so that we can follow up and also track those numbers, right?
Yes.
So.
Thank you, Saida.
Yeah.
And what I'll do, I'll make sure to connect you offline so that we could get you connected to Saida, because her and her team, they are, laser focused on that particular, answering that particular challenge. And so I think it'll be important to make sure that I connect you with her so that she can talk you through next steps, because again, that's what they focus on every day. So I'll take 1 or 2 more questions, because again, we're losing time at those tables, but okay. Representative Lopez, thank you for being here.
Oh, no. Thank you for holding this, and thank you to the panel for being here. It's kind of a follow-up to the public safety question. Will there be, and it's kind of corridor specific too, so kind of going to be right back at it, but will there be opportunities in the future to expand or amend what that corridor map looks like? Milton Road, I believe, is maybe a street outside of the map that the boundary covers, and it has seen some pretty extreme public safety issues and concerns. A big business recently shut down over there because of recurring acts of violence out there, and now it's having trouble being resold. So like what could that look like going forward, even if it's literally just a street over, so that way those community members can get access to the corridor's funding or programming?
And I'll answer that, Representative Lopez. Thank you for that, because that's a very good point. I think our neighbors that are along that corridor have definitely been very verbal about what they would like to see happen there. So let me give as much context that I can, considering the time. The Corridors of Opportunity program is a program that was born from the Mayor's Racial Equity Initiative, right? So just for context, that lady right there in the back said, hey, private sector, the CELC, which is an acronym for the Charlotte Executive Leadership Council, they partnered with her and said, we're going to partner with you and address 4 key areas. And one of those was the Corridors of Opportunity, right? They raised over $170 million in 1 year. Right, we didn't put that much money with it. We put a fraction of that with it. It's really private sector funded, right now. So that money that you see going across these 6 traditionally underserved areas of the city, that's private funding along with some city funding to address some of those needs across those traditionally left out areas. And one of them is dead smack in the middle of our district. And we're not done with the implementation of it, right? So we have already promised the 6 areas, and we're just now really starting the implementation process for the Central Avenue and Albemarle Road corridor, where we're going to upfit lighting and, upfit infrastructure and invest in businesses and a number of different other things. And what I've told the neighbors in those areas is that we have what you call the strategic investment areas. And that's where the conversations were born. Actually, for the last 3 or 4 months, I've been having executive level meetings with our leadership team to say, how can we deal with our community members in Hampshire Hills? Because that's right across the street where one of the worst tragedies in our country's history happened. We lost 4 officers over there in Shannon Park, right? And so that place has a specific emphasis where we realize that there are challenges there that need to be met. So what can we do in the interim? We can't call it right now a corridor because, first of all, we haven't even gotten through the 6 implementation of the 6 corridors across the city, but we can do things in the interim. And so that's where the chats are born. That's why we have Sean Heath, who is laser focused on some of those areas and partnering with community members and leaders across the area so that we can focus on it, but it's not going to be called a corridor, at least until we implement the 6 and then see what we do from there, right? So it's not a question of if, maybe when, right? Because we know, and we're doing things right now, working with community leaders. North Tryon has already met with Hampshire Hills. They've already met with those communities. The same chat that we were in, they're doing it on that side. We got one coming up in Independence in another week, and it's important for you and me to be there so that we can hear directly from these community leaders that touch the humans that we represent every day. They're closer to them. They know what's going on. They know the everyday occurrences, and it's important that we're there so that we can do those touch points. But the long and short of that is that it's not a corridor right now, but we are placing specific emphasis on it and taking action for the challenges that area, the Plaza Road, the Milton Extension area are experiencing right now. So that's a great question, and it's important. So you and I can connect offline because the chats, I'm sure we're going to run into each other at these chats across the east side. And I think one more question. I saw Carolyn.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you, Eastsiders, for being here tonight. This is great. Todd, I'm not going to follow on you. I know you've had enough of me over the years with Eastland. Ed, real quick, I know a lot depends on the 1-cent sales tax, but microtransit is extremely, I'm all behind microtransit, but I don't see East Charlotte, Mid-East, and this area of East Charlotte getting it for 25 years if we're lucky. Microtransit, can you imagine one of our seniors over by Eastland or Sharon Amity or Central or Albemarle being able to call and get microtransit, take them to a grocery store or to medical services or their kids to recreation? How can we get jobs? Because you say transit is important. If they're going to bring a major company in, they want their employees to be able to get places and to have things to do. So I'm thrilled that Far East will see it, but I'd really love somehow that we get on the map sooner than 25 years from now. And the Gold Line, we're not looking at what Eastland really, I mean, Todd can pretty much speak to this. I don't think we're seeing what this is going to do for East Charlotte and the people we've got coming in from Thursday to Sunday alone. How are they going to get in and out of Eastland? They're going to go to hotels uptown. We want them to stop and see the mom and pop stores along Central and Albemarle. How are they going to do that if they're just going into Eastland and then getting in their cars and leaving? Better bus service is great, but that's not going to be the ultimate for really creating what we want in East Charlotte. And I'm sorry, I've got a lot of questions. Neighbors couldn't be here tonight, so my head's spinning what they asked me to speak about. So I really wanted to bring that out, that we really need that on economic level. Better bus service is great, but it does not bring economic growth. It does not bring better paying jobs, and it doesn't get our East Siders able to live, work, and play within 10 minutes of where they live. So, thank you.
So, well, thank you for that. I think, well, first of all, for the sake of time, because we're almost out of time, but I don't want to not at least address that because I think it's important. East Charlotte, we are 127,000 people. Just for context, we consider a city large, a whole city large at 50,000 human beings. The National League of Cities, every city that's above 50,000 human beings is considered a large city. We are about 930,000 human beings. Every single district has a minimum of 125,000 people per district. East Charlotte, in particular, District 5, has some of the most diverse representation across all districts. We have more languages, more ethnicities represented. We have more culture. We have so much to continue to address, from language to culture to demographics to aging. But it's interesting because we also have this diversity of age. Age is diversity. right? We have human beings that are in need of, resources because of their ages and ability. And then we have also, according to the quality of life indicator, the average age of the humans on our side of town is 36 years old. We have a pretty young city. But that's not reflective of the humans that we hear from on a regular basis, right? Because, from a political perspective, I love my young folk, but they're not the ones who are the most verbal when it comes to what needs to happen across our city. And so for that reason, I think what people would like to have according to where they're physically located is very different. And I think who we hear from at any given moment can change based on what those people want. And I hear so many different conversations. I hear people who want density. They want the ability to create a triplex at their home because they realize that there's rental property. And then in that same, neighborhood, there might be a human being who says, you know what, I like the character of my neighborhood. I've raised my children here. I love having a yard and critters and things like that. And I want my neighborhood to stay the same. And that's the challenge that we have right now, is this clash of ideas. And sometimes I don't know if it's the gift or the curse of being able to hear the diversity of the differences in ideas, but I get to hear them for better or for worse. Some people saying this, some people saying that. And so my opportunity with leadership is to try to do the best I can to meet as many people as I can in the middle, right, with the resources that we have available to us. So I think what's coming from the General Assembly, if it comes from the General Assembly, it still has to go to the Board of County Commissioners for the possibility to send it to a vote. But without that, well, basically, let me back up. The General Assembly has already said what they would approve, right? So we have 40, 40, 20. That's what we have. If it was designed the way that it was, and we could go back and say if this and if that, and we'd be here another 30 minutes. But what we have before us is the reality of what we have before us. And if it is successful, then we have the opportunity to serve a very diverse group of human beings with varying needs, some that need microtransit. And I'm with you. Imagine a senior who can pay $2, the amount it would take to go on a bus and go to the grocery store. And they don't have to. My mom has stage 4 lung cancer. My mom can't walk, and she's never driven a day in her life. I told John Holmes that when he set me down a few years ago, and I love him, God rest his soul. But I told him, I said, John, I'm not a bus rider. I said, but my mom is. My mom never drove a car a day in her life, and my mom has always ridden the bus. My mom used to live here with me, right? And so there were times where I couldn't take her, and she had to catch our bus, right? But you imagine a senior now who could call some transit that would come to their home and take them where they got to go for $2 when they're on a fixed income. That is game changing. Or a single mom who is on one income and has children. And outside of Shaw, poverty is sexist, right? If you want to reach poverty, you find it in women, and normally they're single women with children, right? So, there's so many different demographics that we can touch. And like I said, the diversity of humans and needs, it varies across who we talk to and when. So, Carolyn Millen is one of our most engaged humans in the city of Charlotte. If you don't know Carolyn, you're not paying attention. She comes to the council meetings. She's very active across many boards, very well informed. And I'm happy to talk to you offline because I do realize how well that you understand the diversity of this knowledge. So I think it's important that we connect, and I think it's important that I attempt to try to at least let those community members know where we are, what's possible, and where we can go. And that's the best I can give you. So with that, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Please give our panelists a round of applause. They've done an absolute fantastic job. Great questions. I encourage any of you, I'll be here for a little while. I'm here until the last one of you leave. So if you have any questions, please come up to me. We have some tables in the back, and I know they're going to be packing up soon, but if there's any information that you need around our strategic investment areas, our transit, and some of the great things that we have happening in the east side, I encourage you to go back there, grab some of that literature. And again, if you need to reach out to me, I'm marjorie.molina@charlottenc.gov. Thank you for coming out. God bless you, and good night.